Thanks so much for joining us. This is our 9th episode of Regenerate Your Reality webcast series. It's all about regeneration in every way. Today we are talking about food production, and I have Alan Cacao here, my partner and person who has really accelerated this food production dream in our life. And I'd love to, as people are entering, maybe we can just talk a little bit about your background, a little bit about what we do.
Hey, how are you everyone? My name is Alan again, and I've been working farming and for the last 14, 15 years, working with permaculture and different food production systems. And also when I was kid, also I grow in a farm my first 13 years, and so I have a really deep love and connection for plants and animals and for being connecting with the food.
Yeah, food production has, I grew up in the States where I was very disconnected from where my food came from and um, what soils it was growing in, who was producing it, and that led me to want to grow my own food and travel to find where's my home going to be. Now we are in Costa Rica. We've been here for over 5 years on the Caribbean side, and now we're on the south side of
So Pacific.
South Pacific side near Tinamaste area, and we are 50% food sovereigns. We started growing about a little over 2 years ago at this farm, and today we're going to talk all about different food production systems that you can put into action wherever you are in the world, just giving you some inspiration to get started and to just dive in and plant the seeds, plant the trees, and grow the biodiversity in your own backyard. So I'm going to share with you our little presentation and a little bit about our, let's see, sorry here.
Yeah, guys, and remember that producing food is one of the most ancestral tools that we have, right? And we talk about agriculture start 10,000 years ago, but the reality is we start many, many, many thousands years before to adapting plants, to domesticate plants, and it's part of our life, is in our genetic code to work with plants and grow food and connect with the seeds.
I'm just going to show you a little video of where we are and show you a little inspiration from above. So we are in the Pacific. This is a mountain range near us, an overview of our farm, and it's just so beautiful to see how you can nurture a garden, plant the seeds, and harvest from those seeds not long after. And we just encourage the regeneration of our bodies, our minds, and the earth and communities. So this is a little piece from our backyard. We do regenerative consulting and farm to table tours where we serve you lunch, and we learn about permaculture and how to put this into practice right away. So feel free to visit us or set up online consulting, or we're here to help you.
And you can see in this last part of the video, when the grass start, is our neighbor. From here we are, it's just to know, includes growing your food and producing your food can be a way to regenerate the land and regenerate yourself.
So we started with land that used to be cow pasture and needed some extra work and regeneration of the soils. This is a little picture to the right showing our drawing of what we wanted the farm to like. If you could put yourself on mute, that would be a great for us. Thank you so much. And we'll have questions at the end.
And this is the first sketch.
And so this is the first sketch that we did, and we turned it into reality and started planting in this beautiful way with nature. This is also an overview of our farm.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really important topic because this is that is gonna giving us the sovereignty and the power and the most connection and healthy in our bodies. Because I will guide you to different food production systems that you wanna found in the tropics, but also in all part of the world. Let's start. Yeah, this is we later want to go to that presentation, but this is a little bit the zones of our project, and we will talk about the zones when we talk about where are located or different food production systems, right? Okay, we want to start with the most basic gardens that you can found. There are like seasonal gardens. Where we found the seasonal gardens, normally we can find it in greenhouses. We can find it outdoors in our main gardens. And what we can grow in a seasonal garden, we can go greens that like lettuce, pak choys, or arugulas, greens that you can just pull and they have just a short life of time. There are some veggies too, like some tomatoes and some chiles. There are some plants they are just for season, and you will find in this system. And normally, because it's just for season, needs to be close to you, and you will harvest it constantly, and you will need to maintain and keep it close to you, like the seasonal gardens. Normally, you will find in the zone one. What other seasonals think crops you can find? Can be beans, can be squashes, can be corn, can be peanuts, and you will find plants to can go from ground covers. There are seasonals like peanuts, and also they fix nitrogen. You can buy later. You can find bush like they can be another like they can be greens. um, yeah, this is just short, and if you focus in these plants, that probably the plants to recurs more time and energy from you. All right, let's go to the next one. The next uh, plants that we want to talk about is the annual gardens or the annual plants, where we can find the annual gardens. Normally, you can find it in your food forest because annual gardens means that you harvest one time a year and you need to replant it. These kind of plants are yucca, are edible, different edible roots like yucca, taro, sweet potatoes, and those can be ground covers like sweet potato that you harvest once a year and probably you replant it. And yucca the same, you harvest are close to 1 year and you replant it. Turmeric, ginger, they are medicinal plants. Normally, your annual garden you wanna locate it in a zone two because you don't need to go like constantly. You will go maybe once every 2 days, every 3 days to see, and you will go and weed them or composting when is the time. But this will require less maintenance because this will be normally in your zone two of permaculture. Um, what other annuals? That will be probably the most important. In the food forest, now here in our property, I'm growing a lot of turmeric and ginger. They are annuals. Because I'm propagate in the food forest because they can grow in semi-shade, right? You can have also annuals inside of your greenhouse too. Um, Inside of the greenhouse, you can have seasonals and annuals and perennials. Like the meaning of have a greenhouse here in this tropics is to control the water. because rains too much. And there will be some plants that will affect it with the rain. It's more for control rain. Um, that will be like the most important with the annual plants. Now we can go to our next part. Normally annual plants you will found in permaculture. You can found in between zone 1 if it's inside of the greenhouse, zone 2 if it's a specific crop that is an annual crop, and you can also found in zone 3 in the food forest, like me that I'm now planting in my gingers and turmerics, right? I want to go to the next one. Um, the next one is like also probably the most interesting because it's what they need less energy from all the system. The annuals needs energy, but less energy. But the perennial probably will be the system with less energy because this is like, and there and here is when the food forest applies way more in perennials. It's almost on its focus more. Um, but perennial means that they have a long period of light, and we can find many different perennial plants. They can be from like greens. There are so many greens that we have around. They are perennial. There are so many perennial spinach. They can live in for like a lot of periods of years, and they kind of are ground covers. And we have 8 different varieties of like spinach. There are some other bushes that are also really important. They are perennials too. They are or herbs, and or herbs that we have teas are we consume, and is also part of food production system. And they're perennials. We have like oreganos. We have lavender. We have mints. All these they have a long period of light, and these are perennials. They are really close to us in our gardens. They are more close to the house, but you can find perennials in the food forest. There are all these different fruit trees that we will grow them because, for example, pineapple can takes a year to grow, but when you planting one pineapple you can reproduce more, but the same pineapple will grow another pineapple from the same plant. The same bananas, the same plantains. You're practically you plant a family because they are all these ones are perennials. You will find beans. They are perennials to like PG bean or guandul bean. Um, this is a really important production system, perennials, and we will talk a little more about food forests. But focusing perennials will give you less energy and maintaining.
And they say in permaculture, having a perennial garden, you get more hammock time. So it's great to have perennials that last maybe up to 3 years. For example, chilies, Panamanian chilies, can go up to 3 years in a cycle, and whereas annuals or seasonals will decompose faster, and you'll need to keep planting it. More energy inputs.
Yeah, we also have a question here. He said that where we found typical medicinal plants or what zone. Look it out. Medicinal plants you can find almost in every zone because you can have your herbs and teas that are really close to you. Like we have also aloe veras in a really close garden here, and we have many basils. And thus you can find in your zone 1 medicinal plants that are probably that you use more all the time. But you can find medicinal plants in the food forest, like many fruit trees like guayabas or mangoes. They have medicinal properties too, guanabana, the leaves, the bark. When you start to learning more about plants, really like the medicinal plants are everywhere, including the forest. You found wheat plants or jungle plants. They have medicinal properties. Those medicinal you found in everywhere, but there are some specific that you consume more that you will have a specific in your zone 1, close to your kitchen, the most close to your kitchen. You know, this oregano, this basil that you constantly use them. All right.
Yes. It's great to have your herbs closest to you so that you utilize them all the time and have no excuse just to pop some herbs into your smoothie or make mix them into your salads. There's so many different uses, but it's great to have it convenience close to your home in Zone 1. So let's talk about food forest production systems.
All right. Actually, when we talk about food production systems, it's really important to talk about includes like conventional fruit production systems now. The majority of the food now is producing in monocultives. That means that it's just one crop of one thing, and this requires like big amounts of energy, oil, and the only advance that this system give to humanity is that it's so productive because they produce in a big mass of food. And normally, whatever system of agriculture, more energy and more money you put in them, you will produce more. But in sometimes it's just in a short time because you don't benefit the soil. And you need to take time to establish systems to make to be resilient, to be stronger. Like because all these convention systems are fragile, are toxic. They pollute the elements, the rivers, the air, the soil, and we don't even know. And all these systems, the majority they use GMOs, and they finish in the markets in many mini supers or little stores here, and they are like the vegetables that you normally you found in all these stores in big supermarkets, or companies buy it and process other food, and it's what you found. Like you found the majority of the food production system is monocultures, big factories, and mini supers. Is why it's so important now empowering to you to find a way to grow something, to start to create a food production system, the most simple there is, but start with something. And now I want to talk to you about my favorite food production system, the ways to do a greenhouses, or the way to prepare a soil for a greenhouse, or the way to prepare a soil for a annual garden or a seasonal garden. That will be another topic because this will be more a way how I work with the soil and what way of agriculture I want to do. There are many ways of agriculture that you can do. There are some people to use raising beds, culture beds. There are some people to have probably have a good soil and just don't that digging too much in his soil. Some people to depends your soil and your needs, you will need to prepare your beds. But normally inside of a greenhouse, the best is have a 50% a good soil that is draining and a lot of compost. That will be tell you that specific greens, vegetables, they require a lot of nutrients from your soil. Some perennial eatable greens like tuk or all these hibiscus or all this spinach, these ones they don't take too much nutrients. And the fruit trees, they probably don't have any competition with another of these plants because we will go lower for nutrients. Those food forests, from all the food production systems and as also a style of grow food, probably will be the most close to really mimic nature and will be the most stronger and diverse and resilient system that you can create it. And you mimic nature, you inspire with all the patterns that nature have around, all the different layers going from roots, from little uh, bushes to, to medium-sized trees, vines, tall trees, to the climate trees. And you always observe around you, because you always, the only you need to do is you observe, you found where are the different layers, and later you trying to find what plants grow in your zone, and try to find uh, usable plants. They wanna mimic the same than this forest, you know. They can be usable plants, not just food. Includes you can have food, but you can have another materials. Um, Inside of the food forest, also you can find mushrooms and animal systems. And I will talk now about animal systems in a bit, but I just want to tell you about the system of the food forest a little more deeper. That's a system that when you use diversity, you feed the soil. And there are some plants that helps you to feed the soil, to give the food for your food, to helps you to regenerate the food. Because it's not like a farm, but there are some specific plants that will helping you. Between these ones is the biomass plants, plants to produce a lot of organic material, like bananas, plantains, and also are multifunctional plants. That is the most important in food production systems, is found plants that are multifunctional. They can feed you, they can bring nitrogen in the ground, they can create biomass, they can feed another microorganism, they can feed another birds and another bugs. There's multifunctional plants. Because you have plants like bananas, plantains, that more you grow in your land and more you chop and drop is practically is like the exercise to do all the time in the food forest is chop and drop, and is the way that you incorporate the biomass is those. And the other really important is the nitrogen fixer plants. These one are legume plants. Like they can start from peanuts. You can have any kind of bean or legume. There are also trees. There are legume trees. The legume family is also is called a fabaceous family. Because you can find from fruit trees. You can find just plants that are a specific posts that you can grow in so easy. Um, like here they call guachipiling or madero negro. It's called glyceria sepium. There are trees that you use like post and they are multifunctionals because they are some of the most multifunctional trees. Are amazing posts. You can grow in so easy. You can create fences. Just nitrogen fixer. Biomass is so important, and obviously have pollinizers like plants to can be shrubs like verbenas to bring hummingbirds. You can have basils. There are different wild basils like a bush basils like clove basil or Thai basil that grows really easy and you can propagate so easy in your food forest. That kind of plants will attract like benefit insects to your system. Because here with the food forest is at some moment it's a lot of design at the beginning and energy, but when you establish the forest, the food forest is going to be less because you want to need just to maintain, just chop and drop, and or if you have the most healthy food forest, you almost no need to apply any organic pesticide or organic fungicide because we use it. We use normally in the greenhouses, annual gardens, seasonal gardens, you will need to create your organic pesticides. And thus you always need to put more energy and you make more productive. In the food forest, in long time, more healthy the ecosystem you create, with more diversity, you will you will be affecting less pests in your food forest. Is how nature's work with the food forest. And remember, mushrooms is another super important thing in the food forest. Mushrooms can grow in the trees. Mushrooms are probably the most important thing to start. Mushrooms have the memory of the decomposition of the forest. Normally, you will find the most big organism in this earth is called mycelium, and this is the memory of the forest. They have all the memory, and you put it in your land, and they will help you to broken material. So it's important to have logs and always bring biomass with good mushrooms and if you're walking in the jungle and you found different mushrooms around your forest, have photos, try to identify. You can find amazing surprise right away here. How many mushrooms we have, Jean? How many you think so?
So here is pictured, we grew we propagated from some friends the oyster mushrooms that are pictured in this white from Weaving Remedies. And we found just on logs and stumps this pink oyster mushroom, and we found a reishi mushroom. We found this psychedelic mushroom that is in the cow manure in the fields after it rains and is sunny. So the fungi is a very integral part of a food forest, and it's just with a food forest we're just mimicking what's in the forest that's surrounding us. So getting that inspiration and bringing some of the soil and mycelium from the forest and placing it in your garden. So we're cross populating and adding more biodiversity to the soils is super important in anywhere in the world where you are.
Yeah, mushrooms also can helping us to they take the toxins and heavy metals from the ground. Just having mushrooms can helping you to regenerate the land to heavy toxic for like heavy pesticides or that stay in the land for a long time. Mushrooms can helping you a lot in this work. We found here approximately like we found probably 5 6 varieties of edible mushrooms. And this is a really nice food production system. In the future, we are thinking in doing more professional, a place exactly where to grow them, and we will probably partner with some friends for that. But now, just walking, if you're walking around the river, you make like a little searching around the area, you will be able to find it. And this is probably one of the most bigger gifts that the food forest and the sunfly gives you. You think so? The sunfly is any productive because it's just forest, but includes the forest jungle can give you surprise like these mushrooms and another plants. They are not too. There is one palm that is called Panamanian palm that grows in the jungle. That palm, you can eat the heart of palm, and so this is kind of a when you are in the jungle and you don't find anything. If you found this palm, and you need to survive, eat the hard palm of this one. Because there are some jungle plants, they wild plants, they can feed you.
Well, great example is nettles. Nettles are found all over the world and are super high in iron and great for our bodies in teas, or you can make pestos with the nettles. But you can find them in tropical or up north in temperate climates. And it's an example of something that grows in the forest that then comes into your food forest just naturally. And it's interesting to see what kind of volunteers to come up into your lands without you even planting it.
Yeah, just don't remember, like eat mushrooms, get more interesting about mushrooms, don't be fear. They are delicious and just start to connect with them and they will helping us in many ways.
Something that this is one of our favorite books by Paul Stamets, and how mushrooms can save the world. And we really believe that mycelium is such a powerful network talking through all of our trees, all the forests, spreading all over the earth. It's nature's internet,
Yeah.
per se, and it's just so great that bringing in more fungi into your food production system is key to keep away pests, to harmonize the earth, to regenerate the lands, and add more nutrients to the food that you're producing.
Yeah, actually, there is this fungal organism that is called trichoderma. In nature, we can find healthy mushrooms. Not all there are some mushrooms, more black mushrooms that normally are mushrooms that tends to decompose materia. But there are some mushrooms like the trichoderma. They're more like spores, and these mushrooms, they are so benefit. They create a connection with the roots of the trees, and they help it to keep healthy. And normally in forests, you always found this mushroom. It's called trichoderma, and you can find now in the market and apply to your food forest to make it more healthy.
Yeah, this is a great. I work at Jungle Project and took a pest control training, and the farmers with Jungle Project use trichoderma as a natural fungicide for the trees. And you can find trichoderma within the center of the forest, but you can also buy pre-populated packs in the hardware store and in where else?
Yeah. There is an INA, the National Institute, also sell it too. And yeah, like and this trichoderma is endemic from every forest around you. Like all the tropics, almost every forest, they will have like benefit organisms. They can be fungal. This trichoderma you found in all the tropics, and they're just different kinds of trichoderma, different families. But the genre will be like trichoderma, and you found it in all the tropics.
So moving on to
Systems.
the next food production system, we are plant-based, and animals bring to animals accelerate the regeneration of lands if done in regenerative ways. We have chickens, for example, that are friends. We do not eat animal products, but if you do, grazing within your animal systems is a great way to integrate animals within the system, and the compost, the manure, goes back to your trees and your soil, and it just helps accelerate the soil regeneration. If you do not want any animals on your property, you can go probably to your neighbors and ask them for the manure of the cows or the horses, and mix that into your compost, so that it does help accelerate the composting, the mycelium, and the life of your soil. It really accelerates it using animal systems.
Yeah, animal system is some of my favorite systems because they are really helping to regenerate the land. If you're thinking, every forest have animals, right? That's why we try to mimic with the different animals, and you can thinking about you can have just native bees. You don't need to even use anything. But native bees are so important because they are pollinize the flowers. And thus you can have bees. You can have from their chickens is another super important element in many permaculture projects because they accelerate the process of regeneration. Here in our systems, in our food production systems, we have chickens in areas. We moving the chickens to, it's like a tractor, chicken tractor, but for big areas. Because the chickens helping us to prepare the soil before to plant it. We also feed the chickens exactly in the area. We put the compost. The chickens eat everything. They fertilize with the poop. They eat the weeds, and later they giving us eggs. Eggs, they are like an amazing source of amino acids and proteins, and we honor the chickens and we love them. The only thing with some animal system production, the most big challenge here that you will find is the feed, how you feed them, because many animals, to be really productive, you need to feed them, and now the problem is the industry of production for feed for animals is come from the same. Because you're eating organic, but your chick or you try to eat the most natural, but your chickens you can find good resource source of food. Because that is totally another topic. What feed, how you feed your animal, right? And here we have the lucky to have a leader of an elder that is a leader in the area of agriculture, organic agriculture. He have animals, and now he's producing his own artisanal feed that he fermented, and he put extract of garlic and plants. This is amazing. This my our chickens are just so happy. They don't even. We have more than 1 year and a half, and any of the chickens get sick.
Yeah.
Like or we even see parasites. We have good food and a good animal. We good food, good water, good concentrate that we buy from this friend that he fermented and he specifically do it in a really good way, and they are like free. They are going in different areas, eating bugs, eating weeds. They are free range all day, and in the night they come to his fence. And those animal systems are challengers because they require care. They require feed them. Normally chickens you will find in your zone 2 in permaculture. You will go probably a couple times a day. If you have another animals more bigger, they're more grass animals like maybe like sheep or maybe goats or maybe cows. You will probably need to go once a day or every 2 days. You know, if the animals have good water and enough grass, and requires less maintenance. Um, but remember, you can have food production systems with no animals. The only that you need to do is found really good gills of plants, really good gills of plants, and chop and drop and chop and drop and chop and drop, and probably bring another manures from like output compost, and little by little you will like. It just takes more time. Chicken helps with accelerating all this process and is bringing benefits. Inclusive if you don't eat it and you just want to sell the eggs, come on, it's good. You can exchange with your neighbors if you want to dedicate. Just is a bit love that you need for have animals, and you can have also fish too in your food forest.
You can have ponds with fish in it. Also, bees are incredible to bring more pollination to your lands. And with the eggs that we produce, we feed them also to our dog. So our dog is almost on from the land diet of eating many eggs.
And coconut.
And coconuts. And so also with the eggshells, it's a great input into the land, adding more minerals to the soils. So we add it to our compost and mix it, and put that underneath the fruit trees. So it's another source of minerals for the land as well. Do you want to touch on anything else?
No, we can start with some questions.
Yeah, I see a few questions here. So yes, a great question with the chop and drop. So what we mean by chop and drop is we plant food for the food. One example of that in this climate is there's a fake sunflower, and it's a nitrogen fixer where we literally just stick a stem of the flower into the ground and it roots. So it's propagated through cutting, and we feed our plants with it. So we have an abundance of food for our food, and we chop it back, and it becomes a layer of biomass on the soil that then adds more nutrients to the soil, more nutrients to the food that we're producing. So it's a whole cycle, a cyclical cycle of life that we accelerate. We're working in harmony, partnering with nature, and bringing more life and abundance back to the lands.
Yeah, chop and drop. Also, if you feel it in nature in the forest, that there are always coming emerging plants that grow fast, and at some moment these emerging or pioneer plants, the first ones, they will fall, they will grow fast, and later the other trees that are more bigger and climates, they will grow. Because nature always do this job for themselves. But when we accelerate, we plant specific plants to benefit the soil, to probably stop erosion, and all these plants we always chop and drop and create more biomass. But other important thing is the root system. When you chop some plants, all the nitrogen fixer plants, they have these knots in the roots when they capture the nitrogen. The nitrogen is here in the earth. Because the nitrogen fixer plants, they catch it and they sequester it. They catch it in some balls. They are in the roots. Because when you go and you chop a branch of any plant, some root died. That is something. It's connected. The root system is pretty similar and connected to the branch. Because when you go and chop, some roots died at that moment. Like free them the nitrogen and making available to another like plants and can absorb it. And it's exactly when the mycelium works, because mycelium is this network. When something decomposes, the mycelium will move all the nutrients to another plant they need them. That is an intelligence. This is symbiosis that nature works in the soil. It's a lot of to learning from the soil, and one is this thing like the chop and drop system helps to create biomass, to create more space in root system, feed the root system, fill the ground. It's a ground cover. If you have grass and you wanna, the chop and drop helps to keep the weeds down and also brings more light, because at some moment, normally the first year when you start a land, normally the first year you start with all these pioneer plants or super plants. They can be biomass plants, they can be nitrogen fixers. You establish, and you will be able to chop and drop and start to feed the soil and keeping weeds. Because I will recommend to start always with the super plants or pioneer plants that fits the soil, that helps you to maintain the system. And that is chop and drop. You can find it is super basic in permaculture. Helps. They have many purposes.
And this is our favorite guidebook to permaculture in any. It goes through every single environment, the climate in the world of how to utilize permaculture in that zone. And you can find a lot of permaculture education online as well, but this is a fantastic resource as a book to just go into your exact climate and see the companion plants and get to know different food production systems, along with all the ethics and the whole designer's manual of permaculture. Another question that we see is, could you explain the best yields for an area being converted from pasture in the tropical wet climate?
Okay, yeah. For a start with pasture, it's really important to uh, establish plants with the strong root systems. Because I will start with, like, more in wet climates with coconuts. I will start with bananas. I will start with plantains. I will start to take some of the grass and changing for ground covers, like sweet potatoes, like peanuts. There are some peanut. There is peanut grass and peanuts, and the peanut, both they fix nitrogen, are from the same family. And the only thing is, peanut grass grows more fast and is more smaller. But these kind of things you can plant. This will be, the gills will be bananas and or plantains. There is a family, a musa. O sea, musa can be wherever, is the family musa. Can be wherever banana or plantain. This is base. Second, if it's a wet climate and low elevation in the climate, in the tropics, coconuts takes a lot of roots. And another will be breadfruit, because it's a big tree and takes a lot of root space and grow fast. Jackfruit too grows fast, and sugar cane, that's another good crop. In nitrogen fixers in the tropics, I recommend Glycerius sepium or Madero negro, or as some people call rat killer tree in some books. And Huachipilin, there is another nitrogen fixer tree. That these trees are multifunctionals, because you can use it to fence your lands, to create edges and fencing. And you always chop and drop nitrogen fixer wood. Is a really nice wood. Actually, these two trees have super strong wood. This will be that. There is another bean that is called PJ bean or Wandul bean. That's another good perennial tree for the wet climates. Because practically this is the recipe for every wet climate. A musa, there is a banana or plantain. A nitrogen fixer, they can be a post and multifunctional plant, or can be a ground cover, that is another way of nitrogen fixer, or can be a small tree like the perennial thing that I call you PJ bean. That will be, and another biomass plant that you have around. We have this plant that she mentioned is a fake sunflower or Titonia uniflora. She said this fixed nitrogen, but it's not nitrogen, it's also phosphor. That's a really important plant in the tropics, because fixed phosphor, and it's a lot of biomass and have super strong root for control erosion. And you can just cut in it and put in, it's too easy. That's super important in the tropics. There's a Titonia, and you found in every way, in every around. And after that will be the base, and from that you can use another big fruit trees to companion with this crop. Like I will recommend like breadfruits, jackfruit, zapotes. And but first probably establish these ones, and probably in 6 months or in the next year establish the other ones. Or if you want to establish all together, you can do it. Depends your soil. But if your soil is so bad, probably I will recommend start with all these super plants. Or if you make a massive big hole for your fruit tree and you put a lot of compost, go for it.
Yeah. So something when we first came to this land and became stewards, we invested heavily on soil building, and we ordered 2 trucks of soil to bring into our greenhouse, to bring into our annual and seasonal garden, and to help plant that soil with the new fruit trees. We also um, had 2 truckloads full of coconut fibers, and by using these coconut fibers, we're also adding nutrients to the soils, building another layer on top of the soils. So it's really important to invest in our soils, which is the food for our food production systems.
Yeah, and don't be feared to experiment with the seeds and the food. We always want to make mistakes. We want to kill plants. We want to make many experience that we have. I don't want to say mistakes. It's just like a little accidents. I will call accidents,
Uh,
like like experimental accidents that you have here. Experimented with your seeds, with your plants, grow gardens. Don't be fear. Try to learning a lot, but at the same time experiment. And if you want to write results about what you do, they can service and help your neighbors and other people. Just don't be fear. I just empowering to start if in with the most basic, maybe a tomato in one bucket of 20 liters close to your house. Start with that, you know.
yeah.
It's just it's so beautiful in your heart, and it's the most beautiful connections. Keeps you healthy.
Yes, you don't need to own land to steward it. You can plant in pots and bring these pots with you wherever you go. You can use recycled containers to plant seeds and herbs within these pots for your just front yard. So you can get started whether you own land or not, whether you have a very small backyard or a large backyard. It's possible to just get started and to start with a handful of plants and grow from there and start exchanging with your neighbors, create a seed exchange, or go to your local market and start to trade with the farmers and getting to know what grows well in your area and starting to notice the forest and really mimicking that within your own land. There's a few other questions that I see here. Um, how much land is needed for self-sufficiency for one person? It depends on your diet, right? If you are mostly plant-based, it's a lot less land you need to feed yourself because um, you are consuming plants. If you are consuming cows, the cows need more land to graze on, and you need more land to steward. So the most environmentally friendly is plant-based diets, and um, you need a lot less land. It could be even uh, uh, just a small, um, what, a half an acre?
Yeah, I think so. You can honestly like for be completely sustainable, one person, it depends your requirements of diet, depends what you do in your life. You can really use 1,000 meter squares and grow your food. We have a garden in the Caribbean of 500 meters, and we produce like a lot of stops just in 500 meters. If you maximize every space that you have, every like the 2 dimensions, you know, like not just like one plant, like 2 plants. Like if you really apply and maximize of space, you can found completely sustainable in 1 hectare. In 1 acre is more than enough. You will have more than enough. But also thinking about what food you want to grow, what will be your diet. If you want to rely in corn or you know you need more land. Entonces, it's all about the diet you want to have. In the tropics, in the forest, here, we like to have a space. If you want to dedicate to create an agroforestry system, you will need a little more space to feed you. Like for some fruit trees that you will need to grow and have a space them. But if you grow more veggies and depends your climate, maybe in a small greenhouse in a small space. It's all about where you are and what are your priorities and what is your lifestyle.
Yes. So the staple foods that we consume and we grow here in just the first 2 years of growing is plantains, bananas, and roots like yucca and sweet potatoes and nyampi and nyami and other all of our veggies, for example, all of our salads, our teas and herbs are from the land. So we're about 50% food sovereign. We still consume some other items that are from the farmers market. So we really highly recommend getting to know your farmer, going to your local market and sourcing from there. And adapting your diet to your region, so eating what is grown within the cycles where you live. There was one last question about how much does it cost to maintain a permaculture farm, and I think that's kind of a broad question because it really depends on where you are, what your priorities are, what your intentions are. With us, we invested pretty heavily our first 2 years being here in the soils, and Alan worked the land along with another farmer about 3 days a week. So the first 2 years is a bigger investment, and then after that it's a lot less maintenance, especially if you're focusing on a food forest and perennials, and in your greenhouse you have all your veggies. So and the cost really depends on where you live in the world. And for example, when I was living in Seattle 7 years ago, I was spending around $5,000 a month in the city. And here, with two of us, we're able to spend less than $2,000. So we've cut our expenses I've cut my expenses over 80%, being food sovereign and really getting to grow our way out of crisis. And especially in these times, it's so important for us to plant seeds from the fruit we eat, to make cuttings, to propagate, and to partner with nature. So just continuing to look at the garden that's around you as you're walking your neighborhood forests, find plants and propagate them in your own garden, and start to think about biodiversity within our diets, within our backyards. And yeah, I really appreciate you all being here. There's another question here.
There is another question. Talk about what is the best book for designing fruit gills, and this book is called Eatable Forest Garden. It's really two big books and talks about almost everything that you can know it about food forests. It's a Martin Crawford, I think this is the this is one of my favorites. You also planned about if the plumbing with the diameter of the line and the roots. Look, when you planting in a food forest, the competition is more for sun. And thus it's important that if you want to planting big fruit trees, you giving a space to every fruit trees. At least if you having the sun tree in the sun 2 in your permaculture projects, because remember in the sun 2 we want good well pruning trees because we can make the trees wherever we want. But in the sun 3, in the sun more far, when we can let the fruit trees go in tall, it's important to let enough space between fruit trees. Also, this book also they give you the spaces between fruit trees into diameters. At the beginning it's no problem, because remember, some bananas, some of these nitrogen fixers, some of these biomass are just super plants, are sacrifice plants. When in the way that the other big trees and or fruit trees grow, these plants will be chop and drop little by little, creating a space, creating sun, creating more sun and space and less shade in the food forest, making the trees that you want to make more bigger grows, and the other super plants, little by little, they will disappear. Um, and in the root system is different. Every plant have a different needs and different root systems. There will be some plants that probably will go deeper, like to found nutrients, and another plants, probably ground covers, will just take the nutrients of the ground. And some fruit trees, they will go deeper, like jackfruit go deeper. They have a really big root there, and this is more about knowing, but it's no competition in the root systems. It's also a helping each others with the root systems. In a monocultive, no.
Yeah, and another question about cover crops. Great cover crops in the tropics are peanuts and sweet potatoes, turmeric, and ginger are, I would say, my top 4 cover crops that are very productive. Within the first 6 to 9 months, you're going to have yields and so many seeds to then reproduce and make more. And they all help improve the soil and are excellent sources of food.
Actually, spinach. There are like some spinach, like New Zealand or Brazilian or Okinawa spinach. They are perennials, and you just put in and put in there, and they will like ground cover the ground. Just as you have tons of different options.
Yes.
Also, you can use rocks. You have a lot of rocks too.
Yes. Any other questions? It's so great to be here with you all today. Encourage you all to check out our newly published best-selling book. The link I will put in the chat here, but I think it will be in the email that I sent you earlier. So check that out. It's still $2.99 on Amazon. The price will just go up a few dollars in the next week or two. So yeah, it's just such a great to be here and to plant and grow and expand with you all. And our next webinar will be in September, so we're taking a 2-month sabbatical from these webinars, but we've had 9 and we highly recommend each one of them. They're excellent conversations about different permaculture topics, and they're all on our website under regenerative education. We also publish food medicine articles there and other inspiring articles that are there. And if you do want to come in for a farm to table lunch, we invite you. And it's just so informative because it will inspire you. You'll see hands-on what is possible. We'll give you cuttings and of many herbs and plants that you can then take home to your own garden. So yeah, just thank you so much, and we encourage you to get involved, get your hands in the soil, and love the earth, regenerate in all ways.